Hello, welcome to the Logan for Liberty Halloween movie review, Halloween 2018. Yesterday, I saw the movie for the second time, the first time around. Oh, warning, there will be spoilers in this. But I just got done watching the movie yesterday for the second time. The first time I watched it, which was on a Tuesday, I went with one of my friends and we met another friend there. And then the second time around, I took my mom to go see the movie because my mom, when the original Halloween came out back in 1978, she was 18 years old when she saw the first movie. So she was really excited to see a reboot, and by pretty much all standards, or just according to what we saw with the development process, it seemed as if Halloween 2018 was being taken care of, was being handled with care. It wasn't just written by John Carpenter drinking a 6-pack of beer, or a 12-pack, 6-pack, 12-pack of beer, whatever it was, and writing the movie in a night or even a week. This was created by a fan. This wasn't just a cash grab. Obviously, any movie is made in the hopes of turning a profit. You want to make money. That's life. You want to make money so you can buy resources, blah, blah, blah. We can go on that forever, but this isn't an economics lesson or even a political lesson. That's just the nature of what it is to be in the movie industry or any industry in general. Your goal is to make money. But it really felt like not only was this movie, obviously it was made because they thought it was going to make money, which is perfectly fine, but it was being handled by actual fans, and they actually got John Carpenter interested in the film, and of course Jamie Lee Curtis, who plays the infamous Laurie Strode character. She returns for the 5th time, but this time it's a genuine sort of, not, would interpretation be the right interpretation? I'm just going to stick with interpretation, or a telling, reiteration, whatever. It's pretty faithful to the Laurie Strode character. It seems like a genuine, yeah, I'm just going to go with interpretation of how Laurie Strode would have handled the events from the first movie. David Gordon Green, of course, who was the director and one of the co-writers. It really seems like they cared about this movie. John Carpenter didn't need a 6-pack or a 12-pack of beer to help produce or write the movie. He seemed like he was genuinely interested out of love for the first movie that he worked on in the Halloween series. His invention, Michael Myers' Halloween 1978. So, going right into it, there were really good vibes. So that's why, I took her to see it and whatnot. This movie, going into it, well, first off, let me kind of address the sort of consensus about this film. Just looking at Rotten Tomatoes based on the critic score and the audience score, it seems as if 70 to 85 people out of every 100, depending on the group of 100 that you choose, most of them will have a generally, by and large, they will have a positive view of Halloween 2018. Now, there's plenty of reasons why somebody might be taken back by it. So, you have YouTubers like Wham, or We Watched a Movie, who they generally love Michael Myers, the character, the icon of Halloween, what it is, the legacy. So, of course, they want to see Michael Myers brought back to the big screen in a competent manner. And they're even, I'm not going to say apologists, they're a fan of the prequels to the first Halloween movie. I am too, for the most part. So, people like them are going to be easier to satisfy. But then you have YouTubers like Chris Stuckman, and he's more of like I would consider him to be, I don't know, like a movie critic type of person. They look for something to nitpick, or they take it a little too seriously. I think Chris Stuckman and one of his friends, the problem they had was that the movie seemed unfocused, and that is something that I will tackle into it. So, again, I saw it for the second time last night. I had pretty high expectations going into this movie. I didn't only have high expectations. Well, I mean, the way I figured it is it couldn't be worse than Halloween Resurrection, where Busta Rhymes karate kicks Michael Myers, or H2, Rob Zombie's, well, I guess reboot of the Halloween series, the sequel to his reimagining of the first movie. I figured it couldn't get any worse than those two films. So I figured, since these are people that actually love the series, I wasn't going to be disappointed. But I was on the hype bandwagon. I had so many expectations. I had a couple worries about how they were going to handle the character of Michael Myers. It seems like some of my worries paid off, but I'm not disappointed. I understand the direction that they decided to go. And that's something that I want to touch upon. Overall, the first time when I watched this movie, I guess I understood what Chris Duckman and his co-host on that specific review said. It seemed a little unfocused. I disagree. Even the second time around, I disagree that the movie seems unfocused. To me, it doesn't seem unfocused. To me, it just seems like there was a lot of stuff going on. And to be fair, this film had a lot of stuff that it had to do. How do you make a reboot sequel to the first movie touch upon things that any Halloween fan has grown to know? If you're being honest with yourself, I think you can point out some good things in each of the prequels following Halloween 2. Or sorry, the original Halloween, made in 1978. I think in every single sequel, you can find a few things that were kind of good ideas, but it failed to live up to the standard of the original film. Not only that, but they had to reintroduce the character, because the last couple films we had in the Halloween series was a reboot. It was a reimagining, a remake reimagining, and then a sequel to that remake or reimagining, which just, it made no sense. It was Halloween in the sense that only by name only, in the fact that it took place during the Halloween holiday, but it wasn't John Carpenter's Michael Myers Halloween, the Halloween that we got used to, the icon that we know of Michael Myers. And they had to introduce new characters. Obviously, you can't just bring back every single character that appeared in the original film. Most of them are dead. Unfortunately, Donald Pleasance, the actor who played Dr. Loomis, or Samuel Loomis, died in the 90s. Excuse me, I'm stuttering and this is terrible. He died in the 90s shortly after Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, which unfortunately also ruined Halloween 6's production. I mean, that production was already a mess to begin with, but we're talking about Halloween 18, so I won't digress that much. So obviously, they're not going to bring him back. The only person that you really can bring back from the original movie is Jamie Lee Curtis, and they're lucky to have even gotten her back. And it only seems unfocused, in my opinion, in terms of a Halloween movie. Because every Halloween movie, until then, has sort of centered around certain locations that they spend most of their time on. For example, there's the Myers house that we get to see. We got pretty accustomed to the house that Laurie Strode in the first movie was babysitting. In Halloween 2, we got used to the hospital setting, which is where most of the movie took place. In Halloween 4, it was around, this sort of town that we got to see a lot. Halloween 5, again, the Myers house and whatnot. But this movie had a lot to set up. It set up a lot of characters. It set up a lot of plot points, subplots as well. So it could seem unfocused in terms of a Halloween movie, but in my honest opinion, I didn't think it was that unfocused. And let me make one thing clear. I am not a movie critic. As a matter of fact, I can't stand most movie critics because it seems like they just nitpick a lot of stuff, and I watch a lot of movies. I watch movies that I wouldn't even like, so there's this sort of there's this group of people that they hate movie critics, and then there's the other group where they're avid defenders of movie critics. You know, movie critics see stuff that the general audience just can't understand. I hate those excuses. Movie critics are annoying sometimes. Nonetheless, let me stop digressing. I keep going off this path. But out of all sincerity, this movie was pretty fantastic. I liked it. Like I said, I had a lot of expectations. So let me talk about how they handled the character of Michael Myers and my worries. So I grew up. My earliest memory of the Halloween series was Halloween 4: Return of Michael Myers. So even though a lot of people hate the mask in that movie, I actually like the mask in that movie because it gives me a sense of nostalgia. But one of the best movies, if I had to list my top 10 or even 20 movies, Halloween 1978, the original Halloween movie, is up there in my top 10, even top 5 best films of all time. The original Halloween is up there. And it set up this character of Michael Myers that I really liked. I have a video on my channel that was published recently called Pure Evil, and I look into the character of Michael Myers, what he is, what he was supposed to be. There's YouTubers like David McRae who think that Michael Myers was just a man in a mask in the original Halloween film. I disagree with that narrative. I think that narrative is ignorant. I think that narrative is people trying to take the story and make it the way they want to, which is fine. There's, not to sound like a postmodernist, but in a sense, there is plenty interpretations, almost an unlimited amount of interpretations to look at the character of Michael Myers. But in this case, I will argue till the day I die, Michael Myers in the original Halloween film was not just a man in a mask. That was just the appearance. He was a supernatural force, an unstoppable force. He was an allegory for evil. He was a human manifestation of the boogeyman, which is why his mask was just a pale, white, emotionless face, because by definition, the boogeyman is it's any sort of presence of fear that is pretty much malleable to whatever culture, household, individual, or family telling the story about the boogeyman. The boogeyman is anything. It's typically just a scary tale to tell children. It could be anything. But in John Carpenter's movie, the boogeyman is evil, pure evil, and evil exists and evil can't be stopped. So he personified this characteristic that is sort of an abstract of things that we can that we kind of recognize. He took this abstract that you can't physically touch or physically see, and then he put it in a character, and that's the character of Michael Myers. That's why in the original Halloween in 1978, you saw him get stabbed in the eye, saw him get stabbed in the chest or the heart, saw him get stabbed in the neck, saw him get shot 6 times, fall off a balcony, and then just disappear. You hear his presence, you hear his breathing in the background. A normal guy can't do that. So I've always held on to the belief that Michael Myers was supernatural. And there's a reason why Donald Pleasance kept saying he was pure evil, he can't die. And then they really solidified that in the sequels, where he just becomes a bullet sponge and he just keeps coming back. He doesn't officially die. And that's the Michael Myers that I grew up to love. So I was afraid that they were going to kill Michael Myers in Halloween 2018, because they were talking about how Michael Myers wasn't scary in the sequels to the original Halloween. A bit of mystery was taken away from him. They made him too supernatural, so it wasn't realistic. You couldn't put yourself in the shoes of that particular character, or for whatever reason. So they wanted to bring back the scary element, and they talked about making him more human. So I was worried. I was like, oh shit, they're going to take Michael Myers, they're going to make him a human. And as somebody who loved the original Halloween, and I liked the way that Michael Myers was sort of portrayed, that was the word I was looking for earlier, sort of portrayed in the sequels to Halloween 1978, I liked the unstoppable, unkillable, he will never die, because he's pure evil, evil always exists, therefore Michael Myers always exists. That was the Michael Myers I grew up to love. So I was so afraid that they were going to make him too human. And there were a few scenes where they kind of made him more human than I would have liked. But it was a nice balance. They brought back the sort of mystery, the uncertainty of the original Halloween movie. Because in the original Halloween movie, at the beginning, you're like, okay, this is just a guy in the mask. And then as the movie progresses, gets closer to the climax and the falling action, the end of the movie, you're like, wait a second, is he still a human? So in this, there's a few things that happens. He takes a lot of damage. In this picture that you're looking at right now, in that scene, Laurie Strode shoots him in the shoulder. You see blood kind of splatter. Later on, what happens, if I'm remembering everything in order, he gets... I'm trying to think how it goes. What happens? For some reason, my brain just took a dump right on me. So, in this picture, in this scene that you're looking at, he gets shot in the shoulder. Eventually, I think I already showed the picture, but the one where his hand is reaching through the glass. Let me see if I could find it. I think it was this first one. That one right there. Spoiler alert. She grabs a shotgun and she shoots his fingers off. Some of his fingers. And there's a scene and you see he's missing a few fingers because his finger a bunch. And the pain obviously affects him. It slows him down a little bit. Which is very similar to what we saw in the original Halloween movie, where damage does seemingly kind of slow him down, but he gets right back up. So in this movie, it's a nice balance between what we saw. It's really blurring the lines. It's making you wonder, is he still human in this reboot, in this reiteration of the Halloween franchise? Is he still a supernatural being? And he barely reacts to the pain. Obviously, it affects him in the moment, because we're assuming that he's human enough to, want to preserve his body. But at the same time, it doesn't really seem to be affecting him. He has a really high pain tolerance, seemingly a really high pain tolerance. And there's a nice scene at the end. I'll get to that in a little bit. So that was my fear, was that they were going to make him too much of a human, take away a supernatural element. They did to an extent. It's not the Michael Myers I would have liked. I liked the Halloween 4 and Halloween 6 type of Michael Myers, where he was fearless. He wasn't really put in vulnerable situations. But they handled him pretty well. There was a twist that I did not see coming, which involves the cop and the new doctor that you assume is going to take Dr. Loomis's place. I actually liked the twist. There were a lot of people who didn't like the twist. I liked it simply for the reason that they were saying, yeah, there's a lot of homages to the original franchise and the original movie, but this movie stands alone. And in a way, it was actually a homage within itself, this plot twist. I will tell you right now, without spoiling too much, the doctor they set up to be a Dr. Loomis type character is anything but a Dr. Loomis type character. This movie, in my opinion, it was fun, it was competent, there was no trick-or-treat motherfucker type of... I mean, there was one scene that kind of came close, but it worked. It involved Laurie Strode. She goes, "Happy Halloween, Michael." She kind of pops out. So, I'm assuming you've already seen this, and you've been warned already. It's sort of a spoiler review. There's a scene where they're struggling upstairs. They kind of, Michael Myers is dodging the combat knife that Laurie Strode is, trying to screw him up with. He eventually takes control of the knife, stabs her in the stomach. She does something to get him back, so he basically pushes her off the balcony. She falls off a 2-story balcony. Michael Myers kind of looks away because her granddaughter is coming into the house, and then when he turns back, she's gone. It was basically, I think it was that scene right there that we're looking at. I'm not sure. But in one of the trailers, you see him sort of staring off a balcony. That's what happened. Laurie Strode disappeared the same way he did at the end of Halloween 1. And it's funny because he's just kind of staring at it. And, you know, you don't really get any emotions or any reaction out of him. He just kind of looks. It's almost the same stare that Dr. Loomis gave at the end of the original Halloween. It was kind of funny because it came out of nowhere. You're like, oh, I guess the tables have turned. In my opinion, Michael Myers was scary in this. He was brutal. The characters, I actually enjoyed the characters. The only problem is I wasn't satisfied with the climax of the movie. It was cool, it was well done, but the story feels incomplete. So, we already know that if the movie does well, they're going to make a sequel. But I'm wondering how they're going to do it. Is Jamie Lee Curtis going to come back? It was a cool ending, as I'm saying, but it felt unsatisfied. There's a lot that it wasn't, so Halloween 1978 was satisfying enough. A sequel would have been cool, but this one, it was well made. I thought it was focused, unlike some people. I would almost give this a perfect score. You know, I'm not a film critic. I'm not afraid to give out a perfect score. This, in my opinion, this movie gets a 9.5 out of 10. And the original Halloween gets a 10 out of 10. The only thing that's holding me back is obviously the fact that the ending wasn't satisfying enough. And I'm trying to figure out a way. I'm still working through my thoughts. I haven't written down anything, so you're hearing me kind of search through my thoughts live. Let me kind of calm down. The movie wasn't mundane. The ending wasn't mundane. The movie makes me... Let me just opine how I feel about the ending a little more detailed, in a more detailed manner. I'm not speaking out of glib. This movie was exciting. I loved it. The ending was unsatisfying because I felt like it wasn't the end. The plot points doesn't seem like it really became full circle. It wasn't like a perfect story in the way that Halloween 1978 was. Because I don't know, it's hard to explain. You know they're going to make another one, especially with the way they kind of ended it. The ending was sort of open-ended, a little less than 1978 because they needed a way, just in case the movie bombed, this was the end of the movie. It feels incomplete. That's basically, I spent the last 5 minutes trying to say that. The ending feels incomplete, but the ending was shot in such a cool way. You get this awesome scene, and I'm going to spoil it right now. Basically, this basement, this bunker that Laurie Strode made, obviously preparing for the escape of Michael Myers, her entire plan was to trap him in that house. And it happens. The plan works out well. You find out that Laurie Strode's daughter, even though she thinks her mom's kind of nuts, she's kind of a badass herself. They trap him down there with bars, and he's just standing there staring up at Laurie Strode. Laurie Strode presses a button, and I don't know if it's propane, but some sort of gas is leaking downstairs. She drops a flare down there. You see this fire and sort of explosion kind of erupt behind Michael Myers. But Michael Myers is just staring up. Not affected, not even worried about what the fire could possibly do to him. And you see it behind him start to kind of, like, you see it engulf him in a way, but he doesn't even flinch. His concentration is on his prey. The rest of the house, she releases gas in the house, so the rest of the house becomes engulfed. They escape. There's this truck driving by. Laurie Strode survives. Her daughter survives, and her granddaughter survives. There's a couple of other characters in the movie that are still alive. This girl in the picture that we see who opened the closet door, the kid she's babysitting, survives. We don't know where he went, what happened to him. He kind of ran off, and we haven't seen him since. The boyfriend of Laurie Strode's granddaughter, and I believe her name is Allison, he's still alive. The doctor who's with the girl at the beginning of the film, we don't know whether or not he's dead. It hasn't been confirmed yet that he's dead. He probably is. He took a lot of head damage, but in the end, he was watching Michael Myers kill the girl in the stall, and he's looking, and he's obviously screwed up. I don't know if he survived. I don't know if there was a detail I missed where they talked about the amount of people he killed already, but we don't see him in a body bag, officially. So I'm wondering if he's still alive, if he's not still alive, and then obviously the three Strodes, they're all still alive, and then we have no idea who the person that picked them up in the pickup was, who they asked for help. We don't know where he's at. We also still have the chief. He's still alive. We don't know how he's going to respond to the situation. Also, there's a shot of the house burning down. They show a shot of the basement, and they purposefully did it. Because at the end of Halloween 2 in 1981, they show Michael Myers being burnt to a crisp. Obviously, he still survived, and he was put in a coma. But in this movie, you do not see Michael Myers' body. Therefore, they're leaving it open for him to escape or survive somehow. How is he going to do it? I don't know. I like to think he can't die. I like to think he can regenerate a little bit. But this is a new series, so obviously he's able to just shred off not an infinitesimal amount of damage. It's a huge amount of damage that he just kind of brushes off. So I don't know how he's going to survive. I've been kind of rambling on a little bit. Some people believe that the movie was unfocused, but in reality, my review of this movie was unfocused. It was cool. This scene in particular was amazing. I don't know if I would say that this movie was scary. This movie... the reason why I say I don't know if this movie was scary, it's because it's kind of hard to be scared by something that you already know. You already know Michael Myers. You know Laurie Strode. You know the basic formula of what a Halloween movie is going to follow. However, they do it in such a clever way to where you are kind of surprised. You feel anxious. They bring back almost the nostalgic feeling of the first movie, and they make it work. There are quite a few jump scares in this movie, but I'm not a person that's like, oh, jump scare. Oh. I like jump scares. I think jump scares are alright. However, in this movie, even though a lot of people hate jump scares, I think this movie has the perfect jump scares because they're not false jump scares. The jump scares have payoffs. It's not like, here's this really intense scene, and then we switch to another scene and a Pop-Tart is popping out of a toaster. Or it's just a cat. These jump scares pay off. They're related to the story. You don't feel like you're taking a break from the movie because of the jump scares. The jump scares seem realistic. They're actual jump scares that would happen. It doesn't affect the plot in any way. You get a lot of cool kills in this movie. Michael Myers is, excuse my language, fucking brutal. He fucks shit up. It is a perfect balance between this cool, collective, calm, but effective Michael Myers that we see from the first movie, the original, and then the brutal Michael Myers that we see from Halloween 6 and the remake of the first movie by Rob Zombie. It's a nice balance. He fucks shit up in this movie. It is badass. As you can see, they're not afraid to show him blood. They don't go overboard with it. Michael Myers is a crafty motherfucker. He knows what he's doing. He's smarter than ever. He is almost in his prime, even though he's 60 years old. He is strong as fuck. He's intelligent as fuck. He is a prime hunter. So there's that to look forward to. What else can I talk about? I like the story. I like the subplot. It was pretty cool. And as I said, you're going to watch this. Oh, no. So some people... Let me talk about the homages real quick. So it was confirmed before we even saw a trailer that this movie was going to pay its respects to the sequels, even the ones that this completely disregards and erases in this particular timeline. So there's a lot of elements from Halloween 2, 3, even, Season of the Witch, where Michael Myers doesn't appear, 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8. You have a lot of references, and a lot of people, and this is with anything, they dislike homages because to them, and this was a complaint that I read on the reviews, it tries to pay so many homages to the original series, the original movies, and then the reboot, that it doesn't feel like its own movie. It just feels like a retread of everything we've already seen. I disagree with that, and the reason is because even though there is sort of, you could, as a hardcore fan of Halloween, somebody who's seen the movies tons of times, I recognize the homages right off the bat, but the movie still caught me off guard. I didn't predict anything that was going to happen. And the movie does stand alone. And let me just spoil it about the doctor, because you think they're just going to bring back a doctor who's going to be basically Dracula's Van Helsing. But no, this doctor, he's not Van Helsing to Dracula. Or is it Frankenstein? I can't remember. It's been a while. But this isn't Dr. Loomis to Michael Myers. This is if you took Dr. Loomis and you made him a part of the cult in the 6th movie, his intention is to help Michael Myers, not because he wants to help him, but because he's fascinated by him. There's no weird cult thing, but it is a reference to the cult in Halloween 6 that are trying to help him. But he kills somebody that you're like, oh my god, I can't believe he just killed that person. The casting in this movie is fantastic. I believed all the characters. There was one character who is with the chick in the last photo. He's with that chick. He has a scene with her. It's not too sexual, but he's her boyfriend. And the first time I watched it, I looked at my friend, and I was like, there's no way that guy has any game. The reason why I say that is because he's a panache type of person. He's flamboyant, and he doesn't seem confident. He's like a flamboyant idiot. But yeah, he has game to get with her. And I was like, yeah, no, there's no way. Not in real life. But then again, I've seen some stuff in real life where I'm like, oh, well, okay, then. The kid that she's babysitting, absolutely funny. A lot of people felt like this movie had misplaced humor. I disagree. I thought the humor was perfect. This movie was hilarious, but in a good way. Yeah, maybe you want a movie that's all the way serious. I don't know. But I like the humor. I guess in maybe the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, the humor doesn't work. But I had high expectations. So I went into it the second time, and I liked it even more. I liked it the first time around. I liked it even more. I feel like this movie was balanced. My only problem with it is that it feels like an incomplete story, which is fine because it's a movie deserving of a sequel. And anybody who knows the production history of this movie, they were originally going to write it as 2 movies. But they didn't want to lose money. They wanted to see if the first movie would be successful. So we are getting a second movie. And the ending, even though it seems like it could end the story forever, it's open just enough because, well, it's Michael fucking Myers. Regardless, things that I liked the story, I liked the characters, I liked the cast, I liked Michael Myers, how brutal he was. I like the plot and I like the subplots. There weren't really any characters I didn't like. I like the humor, although I can understand if somebody was taken aback by the humor in it. That's understandable, that's fine. The problems with it was, in my opinion, I think Michael Myers was treated too much like a human. Oh, another thing I liked about it was this, even though the trailer gives away a lot of scenes, and you think, so therefore a lot of what's going to happen. The movie was unpredictable. I had no idea it was going to happen this way. There was only one cheesy part in the movie, maybe 2. But overall, things I didn't like was the fact that it feels like an incomplete story, the way they handled Michael Myers, even though I liked it. That one's sort of like I liked it 65% of the time, the way they handled him. He was a badass. And then the other 35%, it's like, it's not the way I would have handled him, but we're not the movie creators, so we kind of have to take what's been given to us. But what they did give to us, even the parts I didn't like, was a competent movie. So that's why if I had to rate it out of 10, I would give it a 9.5 out of 10, almost a perfect score, because it is a competent film. There's no Busta Rhymes bullshit. You know, hiya, trick or treat, motherfucker, or shit like that. There's no big ass beard and die bullshit in H2. The movie was competent. It felt like a Halloween movie. It was different while being something similar. It wasn't the same thing over and over again, even though it had a lot of stuff that we've already seen. It's a clever movie. It needs a sequel. It's going to get one, so that's fine. I'm just repeating the same shit over and over again. That's my basic review of Halloween 2018. I might write down my thoughts and go through my thoughts more and come up with a final conclusion of what I actually think. A more polished review. But this is still my initial. This is the third day after me seeing it without writing anything down. I saw it twice. I know how I feel about the overall movie. It's just the details I'll have to go in. But this is a perfect Halloween movie in the ethos of 1978 Halloween. It's competent, it's great, it's fantastic, it's fun. I recommend it. On a closing note, what I will say is, depending on your expectations, it will affect the way that you see the movie and interpret all of its elements. So, if I was hyped because I love Michael Myers, I love Halloween, so in a way I'm easily satisfied. What I told myself was, as long as Busta Rhymes doesn't karate kick Michael Myers, as long as we don't get H2 Rob Zombie's mess, then I think the movie's gonna be fine. And the movie was fine. Maybe it was unfocused to you. In the sense of a Halloween movie, I guess you could say it was unfocused, but in the sense of an overall movie, not unfocused, just a climax that doesn't seem satisfying, even though the climax is badass. The climax and the conclusion. It's badass. I want more, though. It's making me itch for more, because I don't feel satisfied just yet. Could be an addiction. Who knows? But thank you so much for watching my review.